Dear students, I welcome you all to the session on John Donne's poetry. We would discuss the most representative metaphysical poem written by John Donne today. You must be aware of the title of the poem. The title of the poem is The Ecstasy. The very notion of ecstasy is based on Plotinus, the philosopher's concept of ecstasy. The poet is referring to a state here in which the souls liberate from the body, in which the souls liberate from the body, and then they do have interaction with the divine, and the pleasure that these souls have while interacting with the divine is
Good
being
morning, sir.
called, the ecstasy by the poet. Yes, good morning. I was talking about what does ecstasy mean. Ecstasy means the state of ecstasy. The poet means to say that this is a trance-like state in which the souls come out from the body and then they interact with the divine. Now, the pleasure that they get when they are interacting with the divine is or has been named as ecstasy. Before I begin the poem, I would like to tell you something about Stoics and Epicurean. Now, even the philosopher who belonged to the school of Stoics and the philosopher who believed in Epicurean philosophy, they could not resolve the problem related to the concept of pleasure. And therefore, when it came to Plotinus, he said, when we talk about the real concept of pleasure, when we talk about the real concept of ecstasy, it can be derived only when the souls come out from the body and then they interact with the superpower. And only when they will be interacting with the superpower, only when they will be interacting with the divine, they will have the pleasuresome state. Now, this problem could not be resolved properly, as I said to you, even by the philosophers belonging to the school of Stoics and belonging to the school of Epicureans. Now, as I said to you, this is the most representative metaphysical poem from every point of view. From the point of view of style, as I have told about every poem, even the setting is metaphysical. The setting is dramatic also, and more appropriately, it is the pastoral setting in which the poem is set. Now, the second important point about the poem is that it very beautifully represents the Platonic concept of love, but then the poet has talked about the fact he differs from his predecessors who did not accept the significance of body in realizing the true love. The poet says that one can have true love only through the body. The spiritual love has to pass through the body and then it reaches the soul. And to prove this point, the poet gives a number of examples, a number of images, a number of similes, and they have been well employed in the poem too. Now I start the poem where, like a pillow on a bed, a pregnant bank swayed up to rest the violet's reclining head, sat we two, one another's best. Now, this poem, The Ecstasy, was written in the year 1633. When was it written? It was written in the year 1633. Now, this poem is found in two formats. In some of the anthologies, this is a single long poem. And in some of the anthologies, the poem is divided into 19 stanzas. So this you need to remember how many stanzas are there. In total, there are 19 stanzas, and every stanza consists of 4 lines, and the rhyme scheme is AB AB. Right? So these are the stylistic component of this poem. This poem was written in the year 1633. In some of the anthologies, this poem is found as a single long poem. In some of the other anthologies, this poem is written in 19 stanzas, and then the metrical form of the poem is AB AB. After having talked about these introductory things about the poem The Ecstasy, let me repeat what the word ecstasy means. Ecstasy means the extreme state of happiness. Now the people kept questioning as to what does extreme state of happiness mean. And neither the Stoics, as I said, it was a branch of philosophy, nor the Epicureans, another branch of philosophy. We can equal them, we can compare them with Charvak philosophy. They could not provide a feasible or appealing solution to this concept as to what constitutes the ecstatic state or the extreme state of happiness. Now, Plotinus provided a solution to the problem, and he said that one feels or one is in the extreme state of happiness when the soul comes out from the body and then it is found in the interaction with the divine. And the poet is talking about that extreme state of happiness in this poem. Now, the very beginning is very sensuous. Sensuous in the sense that the scene is very romantic. As I said, the setting is pastoral or pastoral romanticism. And from this pastoral romanticism, the poet will move to the true notion of love. The poet will move to the true notion of love. Now I talk about now I talk about it. Let me begin the poem now, where like a pillow on a bed, a pregnant bank swelled up. Swelled up means rose, utha hua or fula hua. The violets is the name of a flower. The violet is the name of a flower. Reclining head. Reclining means resting. Reclining head, set we to one another best. The poet says that he and his beloved they lay on a swollen bank, on a risen bank of the river, and then the poet makes a comparison that this risen bank of the river looks like pillow on the bed. As I said, romantic imagery. Now look, there is bed, there is pillow also. And but then this is pastoral romanticism because basically the background is rural. Now he further says, and what he further says, a pregnant bank swelled up to rest. And the poet says, it seemed that the swollen bank was fulfilling the function of the plow for the reclining violets. Reclining, resting means there was a swollen bank, and at the end of it, there was there was a violet plant, and the branches of that violet plant was reclining or resting on the swollen bank of the river. So it seems as if the violet branches were resting on that swollen bank of the river. And here the poet then comes into being his own being. His own being means the poet and the beloved. And then the poet says that the two lovers, who are the two lovers? The poet, the lover, and the beloved, they were holding each other's hands. Who were holding each other's hands? The lover and the beloved, they were holding each other's hand. And not only this, what was happening? The violets reclining heads at we to another, one another's best. He says it was in this posture that both of us were sitting. Who were the both of us? The poet and the beloved. And then let us go to this second stanza. And they were holding each other's hands. What they were doing? They were holding each other's hands. Our hands were firmly cemented. Cemented means clasped tightly or holding tightly with a fast balm. Balm is sticky substance. Balm is sticky substance which dance. Which dance means from where did spring? Spring does not mean the season here. It has been used as a verb here and it means emerge, come out or came out. Which dance did spring? Our eye beams twisted. Eye beams, eye rays twisted, twisted moved, and did thread our eyes upon one double string. And then the poet is talking about their own state. The poet says that the two lovers, the poet and the beloved, they were holding fast each other's hands, from which came out a fragrant balm, means a smell that was very soothing even to the nose. And then he keeps talking about it that their eyes, whose eyes? The eyes of the lovers, they met and reflected the image of each other. The eyes met, the eyes means the eyes of the lover and the beloved, they met and they were reflecting the image of each other, means in the eyes of the beloved were the image of the lover, and in the eyes of the lover was the image of the beloved. And they were also handing each other's hands. And he says, our whole propagation was, our whole effort was, our whole target was, our whole objective was to reflect the image of each other, and we succeeded in doing that. The poet says that my image was there in the eyes of my beloved, and then the image of the lover was there in the eyes of the beloved, and vice versa. This is what the poet is talking about, and he says that therefore, this was the concept of platonic love, that the two beings involved in this process, they do have attraction for each other. They do have attraction for each other, but then they have deep attraction, not only attraction but deep attraction, and this deep attraction is being shown in this picture. All right, in the image, that the image of the lover is being reflected in the eyes of the lover and vice versa. And thereafter he goes and makes a comparison. So to entergraft means clasp, hold, HOLD. As yet was all our means to make us one, and pictures on our eyes to get was all our propagation. This we have already done. Means the poet says that we were holding each other's hands, and our eyes were reflecting, our image was reflecting in the eyes of each other. And then he says, this was the whole effort, this was the whole objective that we wanted to attain, and we succeeded in doing that. And now a beautiful comparison follows. That comparison is in the form of a simile. This is an image, and the image is that of an army. As betwixt two equal armies, fate suspends uncertain victory. Our souls, which to advance their state were gone out, hung betwixt her and me. And now here the poet is making a comparison. And what is the comparison? The comparison is with that of the two equal armies. The poet says that as between two equal armies, when the armies they are equal in their strength, nobody knows which army is going to win, and therefore nobody can predict in whose favor the fate will fall. Means who will be the winner in that case, nobody can predict. In the same way, the poet says that their souls had escaped from their bodies to rise. Where to rise? To rise to a state of bliss. And blissful state is the state of pleasure. And the souls, where they were hanging between her and him. Because now the souls were out and the bodies were there. So he says, what do they constitute? They constitute the body. So he says that the soul was hanging between him and her. And then he goes to say, our souls which to advance their state were gone out, hung betwixt her and me. And whilst our souls negotiate there, negotiate means converging. We take Sapalkaral statues, lay Sapalkaral, lifeless statues, lifeless statue. Sapalkaral, lifeless. All day the same our postures were, and we said nothing all the day. And now it makes it very clear that the love that exists between the lover and the beloved is not the physical love. Now, if we go back to our Shastras tell us, or our Shastras have never denied the significance of body in attaining the spiritual love. Now, here in the Western philosophy or in the Western poetry, perhaps John Donne was the first poet to recognize the significance of body in realizing the spiritual love or the love of soul. He said that love cannot be, or true love cannot be attained without bodies, because they are the resting places for the true love. Bodies are the places where the soul rests, and therefore, if the bodies are not there, the soul will not be there. And therefore, he says what he's talking about. He's talking about that our souls, which are out from our bodies, they are converging with each other. What are they doing? They are converging with each other, but then the souls are converging with each other. But then he says that we did not make any movement, means there was no movement in our body. We lay still and motionless. We were lying still and motionless, means there was no movement in our body. And this is how we were looking like, or we were like lifeless statues. He says we were lying like lifeless statues because there was no movement and we were quite still. And this state continued for the whole day. Neither did we move nor did we speak. Neither did we move nor did we speak, but we continued to lie in the same state the whole day. And it speaks of the fact that the lover the poet is talking about is neither physical love nor sexual love. Now let us go to the another stanza. If any so by love refined. Refined means made pure. Refined means made pure, that he soul's language is understood, and by good love were grown all mind, within convenient distance stood. He, though he knew not which soul spake, because both meant both spake the same. Spake means spoke. Might thence a new concoction take. Concoction, mixture, or let me say a new product, and part far purer than he came. If by, if any so by love refined. Now the poet says, if there is any person who is so purified by sincere and exalted love that he understands the language of souls and he decides to stand nearby. The poet says that a refined person, refined in the sense that he's very sincere. Refined by love means he does have a sincere and exalted concept of love, or he has experienced a sincere and exalted concept of love and comprehends the language of love. What he will understand, he will come to know. He will come to know what he will come to know, although he will not be able to understand which soul was speaking. But then one thing would be very clear, and what that one thing would be very clear, that both the souls, they were speaking the same language and the meaning of that language was the same. Means look what he's talking about, that their individual existence is gone. Now they exist only collectively. Why individual existence gone? Individual existence gone because he says he will not be able to identify which soul spoke, but then he will be able to identify that both the souls spoke the same language and the meaning of that language was similar, that they will come to comprehend. After having talked about this, let us go, might then say new concoction take and part far purer than he came. And after having listened to the discourse, there would be a change in that man. And what would be the change in that man? The change in the man would be that his soul will become more refined, and thereby he will be able to depart, he would be able to live as a purer soul rather than as a simple soul that in the form of which he came. Now let us go to the next stanza. This ecstasy that doth unperplex, doth means does. Unperplex means demystify or opens up. We said and tell us what we love. We see by this, it was not sex, we see, we saw not what did move. And here the poet makes it very clear, this ecstasy doth unperplex. The poet says that this ecstatic state unravels or demystifies something about us. And what is something about us? It means this state of ours does explain something about our state and about our love too. We see by this it was not sex. And then the poet concludes and tells the readers that you can see that thereby, because there was no movement in the body, we were lying in the same postures throughout the day. We were still, both of us were motionless. And therefore our love cannot be related to sex. We see, we saw not what did move. And then he says that we could not even perceive what we could not perceive. We could perceive only one thing. What we could perceive the the ecstasy of the soul and not that of the body, because the body remained still throughout, the body remained motionless throughout. After having talked about this, let us go to the another stanza, and there he talks about, but as all several souls contain mixture of things they know not what, love these mixed souls doth mix again and makes both one, each this and that. And then the poet is making a beautiful comparison, and he says that Our love was not based on sex, it was not sexual love. And because he's not aware what are the elements, what are the elements that mingled them to. But then the poet says, what he says, that souls contain various things. In this stanza, the poet says that the souls contain various things of which we may not be aware. But then one thing is very clear. And what is that one thing? That one thing is that love mingles the two souls. Who are the two souls? The two souls are that of the lover and the beloved. And these two souls are made one. Each of them becomes a part and parcel of the other. This is what he says. And then, what is the function of love? Again, a beautiful image. And the image is that of a violet, a single violet transplant. The strength, the color, and the size, all which before was poor and scant. Scant means lacking in, redoubles still and multiplies. Now, do you know the process of transplantation? And here the poet is talking about transplantation. He says, why does the farmer take recourse to transplantation? So that the strength and the color and the size of the plant, or the strength of the plant, or the color or the qualities of that plant may be strengthened. Transplantation is an image from the field of geography or from the field of horticulture. Now, basically, from the field of horticulture, the poet says that a violet again is the name of a flower. If it is transplanted, in Hindi, I have forgotten the meaning of this word. Do you remember the Hindi version of transplantation?
सर
Raj, do you,
दोबारा लगाना किसी चीज को
कली कली काट
री
करके लगा देते हैं ना वो, जिससे उसकी
यस सर
उसकी स्ट्रेंथ में वृद्धि होती है. दैट इज कॉल्ड ट्रांसप्लांटेड.
ट्रांसप्लांट यस सर
Right? So here the poet is talking about that he has taken the example of the flower violet, and he says that if a violet, if it is transplanted, the strength,
यस
color,
सर
and size is developed more fully, more appropriately. Similarly, the poet says that it goes without saying that love joins the two souls, and it is this love that had joined the soul of the lover and the beloved. And it is their souls which has, means this mingling has given rise to a new and finer souls. What it has given rise to? It has given rise to a new and finer souls. And this new and finer souls removes the pangs of loneliness. Otherwise, what they were? They were alone. The lover and the beloved in the form of body, they were separated from each other, and therefore they were alone. The poet says that the pangs or the sorrow or the pain of aloneness or loneliness is removed the moment the two souls get united. Because, because he says the process of transplantation takes place in that the unification of the soul is like the process of transplantation. Because what happens if a soul is lacking in something, that will be supplied by the another soul and vice versa. You must be remembering the story of a blind and a blind and yes, a blind and अरे लंगड़ा और अंधे की कहानी नहीं सुनी थी क्या?
यस सर यस
All right, so this is what the poet is talking about. He says that
Yes.
what one soul lacks in will be supplied by the another soul. This is what happened in the case of the story of Andha and Langda also. All
Yes.
right, the poet is talking about the same thing, and this is how their souls will grow. Means their loneliness will disappear, and like the process of transplantation improves the strength of the violet, in the same way, when the soul's unification will take place, what will happen? Even they will be, means their strengths will be improved, or they will develop more, or their souls will become more fine or finer. When love with one another so interanimates two souls, that abler soul which thence doth flow, the effects of loneliness controls. And here he makes it very clear what I have told you already, that abler soul, when the two souls unite, the abler soul emerges, and that abler soul is free from the defects of the previous two souls when they were separate. The abler soul will emerge. The unifications of the two soul will enable the emergence of an abler soul, which thence doth follow defects of loneliness controls. And he says, this is how the defects of loneliness will be controlled. We then, who are this new soul, know, or what we are composed and made, for the atomies, for the atomies of which we grow, are souls whom no changes can invade. We then, who are this new soul, know of what we are composed and made, for the atomies. Atomies means components or elements of which we grow, our souls whom no change can invade. And only then we will be able to know, the poet says, when a new soul will emerge, then we will be able to know what are the elements that constitute the two souls together. And these are the elements that we shall be able to know cannot be, can never get separated, can never get separated from each other. They can never get alienated from each other. This is what he talks about. When love with another, when love with another so inanimates two souls, that abler soul which thence doth flow, defects of loneliness controls. We then, who are this new soul, know of what we are composed and made, for the atomies of which we grow, are souls whom no change can invade. The poet says, only then we will be able to know that now this abler soul, now the elements of this abler soul are such that no other soul can change the structure of the abler soul or the new soul. Means no other soul can affect us, can have any impact on us, because now all the impure material will be gone from the soul, and we will have only the pure material. And this pure material, he says, what is it? It is like that metal. It is like that metal. If you mix this metal with the gold, it will be working better. And this is what he is talking about. He says, what makes the gold work better? When you put some alloy into it. When you put some alloy into it, जब उसमें आप कोई अलोह धातु दूसरी उसमें रखते हैं, तो वो क्या होता है? Then you can beat it properly and can give it a proper shape. Now the same function would be there when the abler soul will emerge, because there would be expansion, there will be more purity, there will be more refinement. But to alas, so long, so far, our bodies, why do we forbear? Forbear means ignore. Forbear means ignore. They are ours, though they are not we. We are the intelligences they thus fear. And the poet here repents. And therefore, the poet John Donne is unconventional in his concept of love. What he says, unconventional in the concept of true love. What the earlier poet believed, or what the European philosophy believed. They said that spiritual love means love minus body. But he says that true spiritual love can be attained only through body. And now he repents. Why did we ignore our body all the time? He repents that we kept ignoring our body or the role of our body in realizing the true love. But oh alas, so long so far. The poet repents that so long, so far, they have been ignoring their bodies, our bodies. Why do we forbear? The poet puts a rhetorical question to himself and he says that why were we ignoring our bodies? They are ours, though they are not we. The bodies belong to us, but we are not simply bodies. Look the way the argumentation in the poem. He says, our our bodies, they are ours. The bodies belong to us, but we are not simply bodies. We are more than the bodies. They are ours. Who are ours? The bodies are ours, though they are not we. But then we are not simply bodies, but we are more than bodies. We are the intelligences they thus fear. Who are the intelligences? Who are the intelligences? We, they thus fear.
Yes, sir.
We are the intelligences, mean the souls are the intelligences, and they are the sphere where these intelligences are kept. All right, because he says that body is the home or the abode for the souls. Body is the home or the abode for the souls. It is the body where the souls reside in. And therefore he says, we are the intelligences. And these intelligences, they live inside the abode. And this abode is the body. And therefore he makes a comparison and he says that we are the intellectuals and they are the places where our souls are kept or where these intelligences are kept. We owe them thanks because they thus did us to us at first convey, yielded their forces sense to us, nor are dross to us, but allay. Dross means useless. Dross means useless. Allay means alloy. A-double-L-O-Y. As I said to you, aloh dhatu. The poet says, and here he is making a tribute or paying a tribute to the bodies. We owe them thanks because they thus did us to us at first convey. The poet says that we owe to our bodies a lot. We are thankful to them. We are thankful to our bodies. Why we are thankful to our bodies? Because it was through the body that we were able to realize the spiritual love, the rage of spiritual love entered us through the body. Because they thus did us to us at first convey. Convey means carry. Look at the use of the word us thrice. And he says, thereby he means to say that the impact of the body on our souls was was immense. Did us to us at first convey, yielded their forces sense to us. He says they exercised their impact. They impacted upon us. And that brought a sense to our body. That brought a sense to our body, and therefore bodies are not something useless, but they are like alloy which make the metals work better. How are the bodies? What are the bodies? The bodies are like the alloy, and the alloy makes the gold work better. Similarly, he says it is through the body that our spiritual love ripens fast or ripens in the proper direction. On man heaven's influence works not so, but that it must imprint the air, so souls into the soul may flow, though it to body first repair. Now here the poet is again making a beautiful comparison, और कवि कहता है कि जिस तरह से जब स्वर्गीय प्रभाव हमारे अंदर आते हैं तो कहाँ किसके माध्यम से आते हैं? पहले किस में आते हैं वो स्वर्गीय प्रभाव? मीन्स द हेवनली इम्पैक्ट that descends on the earth through the air. कहता है जब स्वर्गीय प्रभाव इस पृथ्वी पर अवतरित होते हैं तो किसके माध्यम से होते हैं? हवा के माध्यम से, वायु के माध्यम से। और इसी तरह से वो क्या कहता है? इसी तरह से क्या कहता है? बॉडी के माध्यम से। सो सोल इनटू द सोल में फ्लो, दो इट टू बॉडी फर्स्ट रिपेयर। He says, then I am not doubtful at all that one soul will interact with the another soul, and this is how they will get more mature, they will get more refined, but at the same time, for this purpose, they have to pass through the body. It is the body that will improve both the souls, that will keep both the souls. So he says that no soul can remain unaffected from the effect of body. No soul can remain unaffected from the effect of body. As our blood labors to beget spirits as like souls as it can, because such fingers knit to knit that subtile knot which makes us man. And here, knot means union. Knot means union. As our blood labors to beget means as our blood labors to beget spirits which acts as the instrument of bringing the two souls together. It is through the blood that the two souls are brought closer to each other. As our blood labors to beget spirits, means souls, as like souls as it can, because such finger knit to knit, that soul's knot which makes us man. He says it will be because of the body. It will be because of the body that the two souls will be united. That the union of the two souls will materialize. If the bodies had not been there, then the union of the two souls would not have materialized. And it is on the basis of this union that we can really claim that we are the human beings, we are the real man. So he says that the significance of body cannot be minimized in the process of the attainment of spiritual love, in the process of the attainment of platonic love, in the process of the attainment of true spiritual love. So must pure lover's soul descend to affections and to faculties that saints may reach and apprehend, else a great prince in prison lies. So must pure lovers' souls descend to affections and to faculties. Affection is affection. Faculties are the five faculties of a human being. What are the five faculties? Means the five senses: eye, nose, ear, and so
Yes,
on and
sir.
so forth. That sense may reach and apprehend. Apprehend means comprehend. Comprehend. Else a great prince in prison lies. Now, the meaning of the word prince is a little controversial here, because some people say that this prince refer to love, and some scholars say that this prince refer to the emergence of the new soul. But then, whatever the meaning is, even if there has been the emergence of the new soul, it has been because of love. So basically, the prince is the love that the poet is talking about here. So must pure lovers' souls descend. He says, when this note of love will be there, the more pure souls will emerge. The more pure souls will emerge, they will have affection for each other, and they will have attraction for all the five senses. And it would have been possible because there was a great prince. And as I said, the meaning of the prince is a little controversial. Some of the people say it may be the soul, the new soul, and some of the people say it may be the love. But then it is this prince that has kept the souls together in the prison. Prison means the body. So he says that in the body, the union of souls will materialize because of the force of love. So ultimately, it is the love that will make the souls more noble, that will make the souls more elevated. To our bodies turn within, that so weak man, on love revealed my look. Love's mysteries in souls do grow, but yet the body is his book. To our bodies thus turn within, and therefore the poet says, let us turn to our bodies, because they have played a significant role in the attainment of the true spiritual love. That so weak man, on love revealed may look, love mysteries in souls to grow. So that the weak people may realize that the mysteries of love grow in the bodies. कवि कहता है कि हम इसलिए क्या करें, अब हमारी बॉडीज की तरफ टर्न करें, जिससे कि जो कमजोर आदमी है, means the person who does not fully comprehend the notion of love, may realize what he may realize. The person who does not fully comprehend the notion of love may realize what love constitutes, means what is the role of body in materializing or in the attainment of the true spiritual love, so that it may be made clear to her or to him that the mysteries of love grow in the bodies, but yet the body is his book. And then he says, it is the body only through which we can read the mysteries of love. So the body is like a book where the mysteries of love can be read. Look, one after the another image follows, and they have been said by the poet in the argumentative style in such a way that all of them in a way become plausible. And if some lover such as we have heard this dialogue of one, let him still make mark us. He shall see small change when we are to bodies gone. And if some lover such as we, and then the poet says that if there is a lover as we are, have heard this dialogue of us, the dialogue that has taken place between my soul and the soul of the beloved, let him still mark us, he shall see small change when we are to bodies gone. He says, you readers mark that even that person who has listened to the whole discourse that happened between me and the beloved, that is between my soul and the soul of the beloved, he will find a small change in us even when we are or we have gone back to our bodies. He says, even when we'll go back to the bodies, there will be minor change in us, means there will be no change in us, means therefore it is in the body where the souls reside, and therefore the body is the abode. It is the body from where the impact of love emanates, and it is this love, it is the nobler love that culminates into pure and spiritual love. Right? So the poet begins with, as I said to you, the romantic image or imagery. All right. And what are the words that he makes use of? He's making use of the words like bed. He's making use of the word like pillow. And then the word pregnant is also used. Pregnancy. And all these words, they refer to the romantic image, the pastoral setting and the romantic image. And it is from this pastoral setting and the romantic image that the poet by and by moves further and reaches the apex, the point of culmination. And the point of culmination is that in the attainment of spiritual love, the significance of body cannot be denied. It will be only through the body, it will be only through the body that a person will be able to attain the true spiritual love. Right? So, this is our poem Ecstasy. Now, as I have said to you, means I have given you some comprehension questions also, full length question also. There
Yes,
are
sir.
some questions which are very significant from examination point of view, like discuss John Donne as a poet of love.
Yes, sir.
Then discuss John Donne as a metaphysical poet. Now there you have to talk about how intellectualism is being employed, how medieval scholasticism is being employed, how metaphysical conceit is being employed, how John Donne is unconventional in the treatment of love. And before talking about that, you have to explain that John Donne is a metaphysical poet, not as far as the content is concerned, but John Donne is a metaphysical poet from the point of style, not from the point of content, but from the point of style. Right? So this is what you will discuss under the head metaphysical poet. When you talk about John Donne as a poet of love, then you will be talking about that John Donne's poetry talks about three types of love: cynical love, conjugal love, and then the spiritual love or the platonic love. Although you can talk about four types also: number one, the cynical; number two, the conjugal; and number three, the spiritual love or the platonic love. And then you have to say that John Donne is unconventional in his approach to love, because talking about the son, he abuses him. Now same is the case here also. He says the role of body for the first time, even his love, even when he's talking about the physical love, he talks about the significance of body. And even when he talks about the spiritual love, he talks about the significance of body. Now if you go to Indian Shastras, you will find there is, I have forgotten the name of the Arnakya. In that Arnakya, it has been stated that the whole earth descended or came out from the womb of the Mother Earth. And here the Mother Earth is the goddess Parvati.
Yes,
So
sir.
in our Shastras, this concept was there, but then in European poetry, perhaps, to my mind, I do not know any other prominent poet who talked about the significance of bodies in the attainment of the spiritual love. So that is the second important question. Then the third important question is, right, critical appreciation. Critical appreciation on all the poems, right? Like ecstasy is the most significant one, then sunrising, and then canonization, and then valediction forbidding warning. You have to prepare the critical appreciation of all.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
sometimes they also ask you to discuss John Donne as a religious poet. And when you discuss John Donne as a religious poet, basically what are you doing? You are expressing his faith as has been expressed in the poem O My Black Soul, which is a sonnet. Right? So this is your John Donne. All right, very interesting poet. And the poems which are prescribed are very interesting, and you can comprehend these poems. Maybe if you read them twice, thrice, then that is enough. Not like Sri Aurobindo's poetry, which is very difficult to comprehend, or Alexander Pope's poetry, which again is very difficult to comprehend. But then
Yes, sir.
this poetry is comparatively easy to comprehend. Right,
Yes, sir.
so I stop it here. We'll continue tomorrow. That is, tomorrow means day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, so we will not have any class tomorrow. But
Yes,
then
sir. Yes.
we will start on Monday. We will start uh, Bacon, right?
Yes, sir.
Francis
Sure, sir.
Bacon we will start because John Donne has been completed today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will start Francis Bacon. So read something in advance
Yes,
about
yes.
Francis Bacon. Okay,
Yes, sir.
until then, bye bye. Have a nice
Thank you,
day.
sir. Thank you, sir.